I'm Nicolle, Leanne,
And
and
go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
with Wholistic Vitality Energy Healing. And then Alexis is going to interview me for your school paper, right? Or your school.
Right, right. I'm actually taking a contemporary alternative medicine class through Metro down in Denver, and we needed to do a field trip
Okay.
per se, and we needed to go explore a practice or a therapy that we have never really researched or really something we've never done, like a first experience. So I actually, I came into this one not really. I didn't even look at my syllabus actually, and my neighbor had this experience done, and he said, you go in and she'll help you, address like some of your past stuff or stuff that's like really bothering you. And so, I kept putting it off, and then I finally messaged her, and she said this will be a 3 hour session. Well, it turns out that's exactly what I needed for school. So it's kind of weird how this all began because everything started to synchronize and kind of be in the right place and like it was supposed to happen. And I actually needed it for a grade in school. So it turned out that doing the Shamanic Shadows Healing, that
Hmm.
it really brings out something that I didn't know about myself, and that's addressing the unconscious and bringing it to the conscious level. So then once I started doing some research about this after doing the session, I realized that some of the ways that we act, it has a lot to do with psychology. So there's, uh, famous psychiatrists out there like Carl Jung who have studied the shadow complex. So
Yes.
knowing this information now in the future, I've realized that we have a darker side to all of us. We all have our negative and we all have our positive. And so what we did through the session with Nicolle was really bring out those negative things that we need to be honest with about ourselves so that we can address them and let go of them, get past them, and move forward in life. And that's
Make,
how I
make
figured,
peace with it, yeah.
yeah, make peace with it. And at least you know that they're there. They may not always go away, but if we're aware of them, then we can kind of, I don't know, have expectations for them and also be able to work with them instead of against them.
Right. Or pretend that they're not there.
Right.
Because then they show up as
Yeah.
triggers.
Yes, yes, yes. Triggers. That's a great way to put it. That's definitely, I've never done anything like this before, so it really helped me recognize triggers for, that's a really good way to put it. So I mean, it's been a week now, an exact week since
Has
I've
it?
done it. And I've definitely found myself kind of more calm at work, more calm, everywhere I go, doing things, because I've just become more aware of the things that really were bothering me. And for some reason, just sitting and reflecting on my own, or, going to the gym, working out, doing all the other things like reading a book, it just didn't come out the way it did when I was able to actually sit down, meditate, and go through her session.
Cool. So,
Yeah. So I just want to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind, for my paper and for
yeah.
everybody else out there who'd like to know some more information, a little bit more about you, because the more you know about somebody who's working with you, it just gains more trust, and
Yes.
you're able to, I mean, you can kind of relate to somebody a little bit more that
And,
way.
and
Uh,
connect. Yeah.
yeah,
Connection is
definitely.
huge.
And the connection is the hugest part about it. Very important. So one of my questions are, um, has your style of work changed or evolved? Has it remained the same?
My style.
Yes, your style of work.
Well, it's important to know then that I have different services. So, of course, the quantum biofeedback energy healing is more science and technology based. That one's really cool at picking up on the causations based on how you react to energetic signatures. So that helps people gain an awareness on a physical level as to what lifestyle choices they can cut out. Also, perhaps what their body needs. But as far as the evolution of my work has definitely evolved from where I started with the Reiki energy healing, which is pretty much to help balance the seven major chakras, and how it has evolved since that is what I now coined the name Shamanic Shadows Healing, because essentially what I do now is technically no longer considered Reiki, And that is what you experienced, was the Shamanic Shadows Healing in
Right.
your session. And how that has evolved is because I started getting intuitive messages from my higher guides as to what was causing most of the blockages in my clients, as to why their chakras were blocked in the first place. So of course, that took some time to get adjusted to, and trusting my own intuition regarding, people I didn't know anything about. But as I was finding validity with them, and then my guides started then evolving me into developing the powerful guided meditation that helps facilitate the shamanic healing journey by accessing your subconscious and then walking you up into the higher realms, where you then get the opportunity to access or connect to your and reunite with first your higher self, and then potentially connect with your guides, angels, guardians, or loved ones. So that's been really incredible on that part of it, which is dealing with the crown chakra for my clients, since most people have lost loved ones along the way and perhaps never got closure, or perhaps never felt they would see them again, or get that opportunity to connect with a loved one, because for most people they assume death is death and life is over after death. And I feel like even with this experience, it gives people that certain level of assurance that, if I'm connecting to, say, my deceased loved one in this manner, is death really death? Because how else would I have this experience? And so I feel like that then it becomes internalized as no longer as fearful of death, because it's kind of like, do we ever really die? Yes, physically, sure, but on a conscious or soul level, do we? So I feel like that is kind of some of the enlightenments that some of my clients have experienced. But going on down, as you touched upon, the shadows, which is why I've called it the Shamanic Shadow Healing, because it's really about trying to then utilize some of the helping healing energies of your guides, angels, guardians, and loved ones, and which is why I feel like it makes it much more powerful of an experience, because it's teaming up the healer that's facilitating it, the client who's participating in it in an out of body, almost astral projection type way, while tapping in and calling in the energies of these higher beings, then going forth down each of the chakras where we store all our energetic signatures, which oftentimes come in the form of wounds, emotionally or mentally or physically. And I've found a system, or I've helped create a system that goes after what I find to be the major ones that are pretty common for most people.
Yeah, and it was kind of like time and space was non-existent
Yeah.
because it's becoming so clear. I don't know, it was I don't know, the most unique inorganic me that was going on. Left
Yeah.
and brain was working together, never happens.
Yeah. And how long do you feel you thought you were
It felt like
gone
hours.
for?
It felt like hours.
Like
And
how many?
I know that total for the session we talked for like 2 hours. And
Yeah, before we started.
but yes, but I mean that's what you kind of do. You would kind of consult with people maybe not that long, but definitely we talked for a while. But I mean, it felt like I don't know, it felt like a full day or something. Like I was literally traveling around, going through
Yeah.
all these emotions, up and down, happy and sad, and then. I mean, but then all in all, like it did feel just like happy. I just felt relieved, like a weight was all gone, kind of thing. Like I
Yeah.
knew things would still be there, but I knew that it was just going to be different from that point on. And
Yeah.
that I never felt like that ever. It's not like I don't know, it's not like graduating from high school or completing a program or, doing anything like that where it's just like you move on to the next chapter. It felt like I moved on with my life kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was cool, and I did also get to be able to talk to some people that have passed away that I didn't even really realize was bothering me until
The
I was able
experience.
to sit down and focus on it. And I mean, we didn't even really go in there asking a bunch of questions. It was one question. And since I'm having a baby, it was what's best for me, my baby.
Yeah.
And like naturally, all of the things that I love that are important in my life and that should be important in my life, the simplest parts to life that really matter the most are what became most apparent again. And like my cell phone, all the little stupid things that I would, get worried about, they weren't there.
Right.
So it was, I don't know, it was pretty cool how
And
that worked.
which one of your loved ones were you able to connect with?
It was all my grandparents that have passed away that I was
Oh
super
yeah.
close to. It's like right now, since I'm having a child, it was like I guess they all just came to tell me everything was gonna be okay, not to worry about it.
Yeah.
And the ones that I would go to for like, the old school advice all the time, they just kind of tell you they know you the best and yeah, and honestly, my baby talked to me the
Yeah.
most. So that was fun. That was fun. And it was crazy because there was like this like navy blue color around like a baby boy. And then I went to the doctor the next week, which would be this week, and it turns out that it was a boy. So I was pretty stoked because it feels even more genuine that I really was having a conversation with my son, which
Yeah.
I still can't believe.
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
can't believe that, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I get all giddy with all my clients because when they, of course, as you might know, the conversation part or the consult part can be the more emotional, opening up, let me tell you my story part. So, but it's like the after the session and some of those tears that come out are just so, even those tears are just so rewarding because it's that letting go and everybody has such cool experiences. I mean, if anything, the only thing I wish I could do is tap into your mind and see what you're seeing the way you're seeing it.
right,
That's the
right.
part I don't get to experience with you. But yeah, just hearing everybody's stories because not everybody records their testimonials, but I mean, that's not to say that those that haven't recorded it haven't had these just amazing stories and experiences that I mean, I guess the lucky one that gets to I don't know, gets to interact with that and
Right.
see what's possible.
Right, and it's personal for everybody too.
Uh-huh.
I just don't have a problem sharing.
Good. And I love that. I love that. And that's part of like tapping into your authenticity. And I feel like that is part of a huge necessary movement in today's age is tapping into your authenticity because so many of us are afraid to be who we are or perhaps don't even know who we are to be who we are or
Right.
we're so ashamed of how we feel or our past that we're so afraid that people are going to judge us for it.
Back to the shadows.
hmm And
Back
so
back
we're
to
so you
them.
got that mask on and you're interacting with the rest of the world who all are also wearing their masks and then everybody wonders why they feel so alone because they can't connect authentically with each person because they themselves are afraid to be their authentic selves. And so I feel like this experience gives people that opportunity or more so of an opportunity to tap into that or be aware of perhaps what their mask might be. Not because it's so facilitated on that level, but I feel like it's kind of an underlying benefit that might come into enlightenment for some people.
Right. And I remember you saying something about rules too, that there might have been like one rule or something throughout something at the very beginning. But I don't know, I feel like people hold back because there's all these stigmas,
Hmm.
stereotypes of how you should be
Your
having.
beliefs.
Right. Having self-expression is really hard. Yeah, beliefs, if you're having like a different attitude, belief, or behavior other than how you were raised, from childhood, which was another thing that you talked about too, is
With the separatism.
I'll have that inner child that kind of makes, rules for adulthood for us too. How we grew up, if somebody said, like, don't do this, then that meant that they're disapproving of a part of you kind of thing.
Hmm.
So, going into that, have you ever developed any criteria or sets of rules for how to use what you know?
Um, yeah, yes and no, I suppose. I feel like there's certain ethical boundaries that some were obviously taught, some were self-learned because um, a lot of even my education, like I had told you before, I started on my I guess journey at an early age of 12. So a lot of my growth has been through the process of self-discovery before I guess it evolved into my business. And so some of those ethics obviously were learned along the way. But as far as like rules, I feel like that's changing, or I guess guidelines, or how I operate, or what I say or don't say. I feel like that is in its evolution stages, as well as I am seeing what's possible, and as well as I'm dealing with or in being confronted with different scenarios with different clients or different people's belief systems. Of course, you have the willing person who's seen the videos or got referred by a friend and are just willing to try anything, and they show up to my door and say, you know, let's do this. Sometimes I've even had a person show up to the door that didn't know what they were about to do, and then they realized before we started or as we were starting, though, whoa, I don't know if I feel so comfortable with this, because perhaps it challenged some of their religious beliefs, because some of the stuff I do is not mainstream. And I guess if I were to give an example, I had a client that she is from Kazakhstan, so she had quite a lot of limiting beliefs, and she came to me because of these limiting beliefs. And of course, I'm like, yes, let's, you know, I deal with limiting beliefs all day long. Let's go after it. But the number one limiting belief that she adopted from her husband, that kind of stopped us at the gate before even starting, was when I was trying to obviously walk her into that deep meditation. And she panicked and freaked out because her husband had once told her that if she were to meditate, she would be possessed by a devil. So as you can imagine, the fear that arose in her, thinking, I'm about to meditate, which means I'm about to be, you know, possessed. And so that kind of obviously stopped the session in its tracks. And then another thing is, she wasn't comfortable with hands-on healing. And for me at the time, I mean, she walked through my door, so I guess I just assumed she was okay with what we were about to do. And so I've had to learn through those types of experiences, okay, ask, because not everybody is comfortable, because not everybody is took the time to actually educate themselves through the material I've provided, or ask the right questions so they felt comfortable. And so I've had to kind of learn through that by the feedback and or the response or the reaction of others, so I could help people who weren't comfortable make the choice of whether it was right to continue, or perhaps, you know, maybe it wasn't right for them right now, or, you know.
Right. To always make it a positive process, you always kind of have like a particular ritual that you would go through, right? Kind of thing. Like you kind of go through stages so that
Yes,
you kind
yes,
of applies more and more and more so that they can kind of get off the ride whenever they
yes,
want to. It's not like just getting on a roller coaster strapped in and you're done for.
yes.
You,
And
okay.
that's what I feel like the consult, especially for the shamanic healing, is has benefited that part, because that's kind of like the discovery process. It helps me to get to know your story, filter out some of what your beliefs are, and kind of see where you're at. And then I can kind of give you or answer questions or give you some information of what I'm picking up on. And I feel like because of that, it helps that comfort level in even going into the actual healing of itself, and that person's trust in an experience that they have no idea, if it's their first experience, what they're about to undergo, especially because to my awareness, I don't know if there is anybody out there that is doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it. Now, of course, there's like hypnotherapists and psychotherapists, and then there's you know, Reiki practitioners and all this other stuff. But I feel like how and what people are experiencing, I have not, I'm not aware of anybody else doing it the way I'm doing it. So in my opinion, or my eyes currently, these waters are uncharted. So therefore, most people don't know what to expect or to experience. And so I have to kind of be better at explaining it and just assume they don't know. And
Right.
therefore,
I feel like you always suggest for people to do a testimonial. I mean, to watch your testimonials too.
yes, yes,
Yeah. So I mean, just me personally, just like on like the school side of it, having that in the back of my mind, that's what made me want to look further into it. And then I realized that like there is like a whole psychology background to it.
hmm
It's not really scary at all, and it even says, and and like third party scholarly journals and everything, that it's not like a demonic devil like
Yeah.
thing all to do that. It's definitely it's just negatives sometimes
Yeah.
that you just kind of address. Um, so how do you incorporate your philosophy into your healing practice? And how do you see the type of healing you do related to your personal life?
Um, I mean, I guess for me, I guess my goal for people, and I guess maybe I haven't really thought of a philosophy per se. But as far as my goals is to help inspire that enlightenment within my clients to help them make the right choices along their path, or to help them develop the right questions so when they go into their healing session, um, they can potentially experience what it is that they want to get out of it. So my goal is for them to get what they need out of it at the end of the day. And everybody's needs are different. And so I guess that would be an answer. I don't know if that's the best
Okay.
answer.
Well, what just curious, like to you, what really is enlightenment?
Um, so to me, what is enlightenment is now, but bear in mind, I feel like enlightenment is an unfolding process, and
I
I feel like for most people, there's a misconception, and I feel that that's what often frustrates people because I feel like there's that yearning for enlightenment, even if people don't even know what it is that they're
I
yearning for.
get ask, yeah.
And so for most people, it's almost like climbing up a mountain and expecting because they climbed the mountain, they are going to be at the peak and it's going to be this aha moment and the journey's over. I feel like enlightenment is like more like an onion. You're peeling back layer upon layer. Based on your experiences being challenged, or the experiences challenging your current level of perspectives and beliefs, and allowing that to grow you and to peel back certain levels of invalid truths that at the time you may have accepted as truths. And I feel like that enlightenment is that unfolding process of letting go what isn't or is no longer truth to you as you get closer to the purest version of you and closest version as to what the bigger picture is, as to what role you play in that bigger picture. So I feel like enlightenment can come in many
You know,
forms.
I'm
Pardon?
sorry. I'm sorry, like the bigger picture, like how we all play in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
or like, you
Like
know,
collective consciousness, and that's tricky waters, and I
I
try not to.
religion, faith, and all of that specifically.
Yes,
But I mean, but overall, though, in the entire world, every human believes in some high divine power
some
or
do. I
divine.
mean, unless they're atheist or believe in
Right,
non-believing, right?
right, right.
But it's really difficult, I guess, to go into that type of topic without brushing up against resistance of other people's beliefs that perhaps haven't discovered certain of truths beyond what they've accepted because of what they were raised with. Because especially if they had their religion molded them or their parents' beliefs molded them. So that's a
So that's
definitely.
how you also have your boundaries, though. And
Yeah,
that's what you
yeah,
do with
yeah,
everybody. So you're just, that's also how you're aware and respectful of everyone's boundaries. So I know
yeah.
that was kind of a hard question. Sorry. I was just kind of curious because I do feel like, especially like the newer generation,
Hmm.
I feel like we're all just like, oh, I am enlightened. I'm this or that. But I feel like it's really a process.
It's a
And I feel like
journey. Hmm.
through energy work and finding like your unique true self is how you really gain enlightenment and
Yeah.
work towards how
And
that is.
sometimes alignments are just little tidbits.
Right,
So kind of
right,
like what you experienced in that session, you had
right.
certain probably enlightening moments or information or things
Like
that
an
may have
aha.
challenged what
Yeah.
you thought you believed before going in, and then you had this experience that said, hold on a second, do I really believe what I thought I believed before? Because this experience completely contradicts that, or doesn't really, or I mean, maybe it works hand in hand. It depends on where you're at. Um, but then say you have another experience and do a different, like one of the shamanic journey healing, and then you might have another layer of perhaps what you might term enlightenment. But again, life shows those to you. It's like
Right.
kind of those like little moments of epiphanies where you like have those little moments of ahas, but but recognizing that your aha moments might not be the be all and end all as to the only truth available. And so again, it's also then important to realize that truth is subjective to the perspective of the beholder. And so, yeah, yeah, it's yeah, it's because what's true for you might not be true for another.
Right.
And that's why sometimes people force their beliefs onto others because they assume because it's a belief that's cemented in them that must be the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And then when you have another layer shown to you, it may contradict again what you may have thought or believed beforehand, and those could be the enlightenment moment in itself, because it's like that realization, oh my gosh, and but I feel like in order to be open to enlightenment, it means being open to growth, which means being open to perspectives that challenge yours. Doesn't mean you have to accept others' perspectives, but allow it to grow yours, or allow you to define yours as you go, and just be open to the fact that you might change your mind as you progress on your journey. And that's
A lot of practice. That's what I felt like after I did your session. I'm like, this is like not like I felt like I worked out in a way. I
yeah,
did. I mean, I really did, because it was a lot. But I mean, a lot of really, really good stuff. Like, I
yeah,
didn't cry or anything after, because I just felt like, all right, like I'm ready to go do something like really positive now. And yeah,
yeah.
I think it definitely takes practice, and it's something that I just wanted to keep doing because it was so relaxing. And yeah, I mean, like
But yet
time,
it was work,
like,
right? It was.
yeah, it
That's
was.
what I get. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because it was so different. So I mean, that's why it felt like work, because it felt like progress.
Yeah.
So,
But the
but
second part of your question, what was that one? Because not the philosophy one. What was the second part of the question?
the second part of that question, um, how do you incorporate your philosophy into everything? What have been the most pleasurable experiences that you have encountered?
No, it wasn't that one. It was a different one. It was
How do you see this type of healing relating to your personal life?
yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
So that one's a really cool question, and I think because a lot of my knowledge or wisdom or whatever you want to call it that I have, I guess, garnered up until now has been because of my own self journey and self discovery. And so for that reason, um, I feel like that's where some of my growth started and then has been shared with my clients. But then I also feel like, interestingly enough, my clients are, because I feel like everything's a mirror too. So if you look at it, things like that too, your internal reality or your external reality is only yet but a mirror of your internal reality. And so we all play this part in this collective picture, as we all have individual unique perspectives, but we somehow might enter each other's collective experience based on how we mirror one another's shadows, or perhaps even it's things that we learn about ourselves through other people, and that's part of the growth of relationships. But I find that to be very true for me with my connecting with my clients, because I learn a lot about myself, or perhaps even some things that I might still need addressing in my healing growth through the lens of my clients, because sometimes I'll have these moments of higher truth that is being streamed from, like, say, my guides, that kind of just comes out. But then once I'm like hearing what I'm saying, and I'm like, oh wait, I should be taking notes too, this is pretty good advice. So I feel like it does kind of grow me as much as it grows my clients.
Well, I kind of feel like that's also part of that connection. Like, we all really are here to learn from each other. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many of us. uh, you also really did, and you did when you talked about, who you were. And I noticed on your website too that you did talk about that, because I looked up a little bit of your bio, and you are a full believer in the law of attraction, which
Hmm.
I totally believe in that too.
Hmm.
But I think that's also why the advice comes to us in the way that it does, is because we needed it at that time.
The
Um,
synchronicities, yep.
yeah. So, I mean, you even were so kind to share personal, stories of your own with me, and we kind of resonated with each other, which
Yeah,
was really nice. And I'm glad that you do that with your clients, because I mean, that really does build trust, but it wasn't like you were lying to me at all. It was
yeah,
just, it was like you could really tell that it really sets things off, and there was that like clicking of connection going on, and it helped me actually learn and pay attention to some other things that I didn't even think about during my meditation, but are also going on in my life. So it's like it was still part of the whole learning process and still part of the session. It just didn't
Yes.
come out like when I was, going through all my chakras, but it still came out during that time. And ever since the session, it's like more awareness has been going on through everything, when I'm driving in my car to work, when I'm, buying groceries, when I'm, since I'm doing massage therapy and I'm working on clients, it's more, just more aware, and it's really, really nice. It's very like comforting. I feel more secure with everything in my life now, and I just don't have, I mean, I worry, but I don't feel as stressed, like broken down, like I have to give up, because it feels like there is a way to think about it in a different sense.
Uh-huh. And that awareness is really powerful, by the way. Um, Once you start to develop that awareness, it helps you to become way more powerful in co-creating your own reality by virtue of the law of attraction and making it work for you, rather than becoming a victim to circumstance, because you're unconscious of how reality has been created around you and how your role plays in that. So when you develop that awareness, you'll start to notice things start to happen faster. Those synchronicities, like we were talking
Uh,
about earlier, start to become much more noticeable, because now you're becoming more aware of them. And so the more aware you become of them, the more they show up. And that's when it gets exciting, because it's like those clues, like I'm on track, or perhaps I'm attracting what my negative thoughts just were projected, that I didn't really filter or give much mind to. And now I'm seeing the direct result of that. And it gives you the ability to shapeshift and practice getting better at making it work for you, so that you can navigate those waters. And that's at least how, or where I started. And it's been an amazing journey with that. So when I see people that are, and I feel like that's part of what I try to incorporate into people's healings, is kind of factoring in the law of attraction, because again, you are, regardless of your awareness of it, it is attracting to you by virtue of your vibration. And your vibration is made up of your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs. And unfortunately, some of those beliefs we, all of us, carry are limiting, and therefore our thoughts tend to reignite some of those beliefs, and therefore those thoughts that kind of travel 90 miles per hour tend to be pretty negative a lot of the times, or go back and forth like a roller coaster. And then our emotions react to them and feed them, and next thing you know, you're wondering why you're living a reality that you don't want to, you're not happy with. So when you get exposed to that, I feel like it's really powerful for people, because it gives the power back into their hands, and saying, you're not a victim to circumstance, you're playing a part in this.
right.
And if you can navigate those waters for you, and of course, sometimes it's harder, because some things are those triggers or those shadows that are buried in your subconscious that you don't always have the conscious ability to access, which is why I've kind of, I guess, I'm doing what it is I'm doing to help get in through the back door. And so it makes it way easier, and I think that the results are faster. And so when I hear your story after your first session, now you're starting to see synchronicities happen even faster. That's proving to me, and with my other clients too, that what it is that I'm doing and facilitating with working within your I guess your makeup of what you got going on, to help get rid of the stuff that's not serving you, is only helping them but raise your vibration, which makes it easier for you to attract higher vibratory stuff, as long as you maintain higher vibrations. And that's the part that takes practice and conscious steps, or conscious practice on behalf of the client. So that's their work beyond my session, is how do I maintain that vibration and that higher level, so I can keep attracting more of what I want, and don't sink back into a bad state because I let life kind of kick me off the tracks. But I think that what I'm doing helps get some of that crud out of the way, making it
Right.
easier for you.
it really helped to be more in the present, because that was one of my questions that I asked you during your session was, I'm really struggling to be more present instead of trying to worry too much about the future that doesn't
Yeah.
happen yet, which I control by being in the present, because I'm also still too worried about my past. So I'm bringing negativity into my present, and even if my present was good, I'm still thinking about the bad and bringing it in. So, I mean, it really just helped me through that session realize, if it's not serving me, then why am I even thinking about it? So then it really helps me be in a present moment. And then even if a negative thought comes to me, I just kind of like throw it away, or I just get rid of it, because I'm like, right now, that's not going to do anything for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. So, I mean, but being happy for some reason, it brings everything better. It makes everything better. It makes food taste better. It makes just the weather better. The
Your
cold,
attitude's
everything.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just feels better. So, yeah, it was kind of one of the best things ever, because it took us what felt like a lifetime when I was throwing away all this garbage of negativity. But that visualization, they've done studies, that helps with stress in so many different ways. But just kind of visualizing it through like your guided meditation, that really it helped definitely to be more present, which is, I think, the most important, because then you enjoy life, and then
Right.
you're making those present memories last longer. So then when you look back, you have way more happy memories that were all at one point in time a present memory for you,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I
Rather
don't.
than rather
Right.
than living in the past and holding on to the stuff that's not serving you, or being mad at what you can't change, or trying to be too caught up in the future that isn't even in your now, that you forget to even live in the now, and then that moment's passed, and the one thing we never get back is time.
Right. Right.
That's the one currency you never get back.
I know, but but for some reason, time. Like I said, I do massages, so like we're constantly on a time schedule, and you have to like be going, going, going. But sometimes I'd be having like kind of a bad day, and just I'd be carrying that with me all the time, and then I'd be late to here, doing this late, doing this wrong, like taking my time here and there. My time management was absolutely poor. But then all of a sudden, when I started realizing like, or like tossing away those negative thoughts, then I was on time to everything. I don't know, everything just started clicking better, like it
Yeah.
was supposed to, or like how I really, really deep down wanted it to. Um, so going on to another question, what have been your greatest challenges?
Hmm. Um, well, first challenge that I felt I had to overcome um, was my own fear of judgment, and because as many of us do, we have a fear of being judged by others. And for me, most of my beliefs aren't mainstream, they're not religious. um, and so I knew starting this business I was going to meet with resistance in those that did hold such strong religious beliefs. And I guess there was like a fear of that judgment, which then law of attraction, having that fear in the first place will attract people as a mirror that'll show that resistance to you. And I definitely started seeing that until I realized, oh, I'm creating this by virtue of my fear of putting myself out there, because it was new territory for me as a business, and doing or putting my work or what I've attained over a long period of time for self, now making it available to the public, yet now, which made me more vulnerable to the judgment of others. And so I felt like that was my first challenge that I had to personally overcome, to even put myself out there, and also work myself through that fear, so I didn't keep attracting that so predominantly in the reactions of people. And I think once I was able to integrate and accept myself and what it is I do, it was then by having that self acceptance was when I started seeing the acceptance from others, and actually the reward of people being very taking my work in kind. And so that was the first thing. But then of course, the other challenge would then be facing those resistant beliefs in others, and not taking it so personally, but also trying to navigate how to personally react then to those adverse reactions in others.
Right. And kind of like what you said with the whole mirroring and law of
Hmm.
attraction, what you put out, you get back. So
Hmm.
you're putting out all this positive like vibration and everything, and you got back positive feedback.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and but then you also
good.
see that when you have fear, you have reasons, or or if you have resistance in yourself, you're attracting resistance outside of you. So it's kind of like learning from that as well by, so I'm not immune to it either. Even though I've practiced most of my life with it, um, because I'm also on that self growth. And that's why I consider myself just as much the teacher as the student, because I learn just as much as I teach. And so I think that is an important, that's important, I guess, to even admit, you know what I mean? Because I feel like in most spiritual mentorship of people of higher enlightenment, are probably even themselves afraid to showcase weakness as being a student to life, or think they have to be continually positive all the time, out of fear that they might be judged and be taken off that pedestal, kind of like being considered that hypocrite. It's kind of like, are you going to go to somebody for advice who's had, 5 divorces if you need relationship advice? You know what I mean? You're not necessarily going to take their advice very seriously. Same thing if you're going to go to somebody who's supposedly knows it all and claiming that they do as a spiritual mentor, and then you find out that their life is kind of in shambles, and you're gonna be like, well, you're a piece of, you're a crock, you know what I mean? You're a fraud. And so I think that part of owning up to that, I'm teacher and student, is part of owning that authenticity, and admitting to humanness and human fault, which human fault is our own thought mechanisms, whether you think negatively or positively, how you react emotionally, to your reality and the people in it. And so you're not necessarily immune to it. You just have, I guess, a certain level of growth that allows you to recognize it faster, and to therefore make changes faster based on how you are aware. So I feel like the biggest clue there is awareness. And that's why I'm saying you're going on your path if you're starting to develop that awareness, because
Right.
that is a very powerful tool.
Right. And with awareness, I felt like from that session, just that one session I had with you, I developed more self-love.
Hmm.
So then when I had a lower day, or like, I mean, I did have kind of like a bad couple of hours, I guess, over the week, but I just accepted it because I was like, you know what? I love myself. I understand a little bit more about myself. I'm proud of
Yeah.
everything that I've been working on. So
And
it's good.
it
Okay.
shifted your attitude, didn't it?
Right. That's
Which
what I'm
then
saying.
shifted your day, right?
Right. So like because I did something good for myself, because I was actually working on myself, that self-love is like the most important thing, and that's kind of like what I feel like you would do as a
Yeah.
teacher or a healer for somebody else, is that you learn to love other people, you're learning about other people and learning to love more about yourself at the same time,
And
which I
admitting
feel.
where you are,
Right,
and admitting
exactly.
what you're feeling. Because
Right.
and I feel like that's a big misconception in the New Age community with the law of attraction, is people are now having this fear around feeling bad or thinking bad, because then it means that you're going to attract bad to you. But part of that is then denying how you're feeling. And if you're denying how you're feeling, there's a resistance within you, and you still have that potential of creating the undesirable, just because you're trying to resist how you're actually feeling. So it is important to admit, I am feeling kind of crap right now, or I am having these thoughts that are definitely taking me down the wrong road. But listening to it and asking yourself, well, why am I thinking that? Where's this going to end up? Do I really want to go where those thoughts are going to go? Or do I want to change this so I can change my attitude? Or questioning it and be like, well, what is this showing me? What's unhealed in me that's making me have these thoughts or feelings? Or what is this showing me? And I think that is part of that part of you that needs to be healed, if you are even aware that you're in that lower vibration. And it's essentially like, kind of like evolving self and transforming yourself, and undoing the damage that has been done throughout time, and undoing the beliefs that do not serve you anymore, and to get rid of some of those emotions, or try to unimplant them, I guess, was what I'm trying to do, so that they don't continually make you a match to those experiences. But that's not to say you're not going to feel bad sometimes. But it's
Right.
about, but admitting that can allow you to then, and being aware of it allow you then to be like, well, what would I rather?
Right, exactly. Kind of that acceptance, like there's going to be rainy days, there's going to be sunny days, there's going to be yin and yang, there's going to be a moon and a sun, there's going to be all these different ups and down times and different opposites, but just knowing how they work and what their purpose is really helpful. Like the sun gives us light and the moon is what really helps us realize what, it's nighttime, or like how
Our
I.
inner workings, yeah, yeah.
Right, yes, exactly. So, another question that I have for you is, so we kind of went over how your clients responded to your healing practice,
Hmm.
um, pretty much. And what
And then
have
there's testimonials if people want.
right, exactly. I watched him after, and I found that one with the little boy who was 10. Was
Wasn't
he
that cool?
10?
10.
Oh my gosh, that was so cool. He's like, all my friends told me to go pick up trash, and you're like, well, are they gonna go help you? Yes. I thought that was the cutest thing ever. I'm like, this little boy already met you. I hope that he gets to do this when he gets older.
Yeah, he's when I first met him, that's when I knew. I told his mom, I'm like, when I first met him, I'm like, you need to bring him in here. He's definitely an old soul in some ways too. He's wise for his age. I remember when I first met him, I was like, oh, what are you guys gonna do today? And he's like, oh, we're gonna go around the neighborhood and pick up trash to help Mother Earth. And I was just like, what 10-year-old says that?
Awesome. I
I'm
thought that was
like,
the coolest thing ever.
I was like, can you teach some of the people in our world like how to,
Right?
take on some of those values? This world would be a better place.
Right? And some people in my generation do believe that some of the children that are coming now are like the prophecies, the ones that are changing everything in the world. But I mean, that was the coolest thing I saw in a really long time.
So
I thought
on
that
so
was really
on that note, and I've kind of explored some of those questions within people's sessions and multiple clients. And so what I've seen from different clients, and we asked sort of that question is, some of the how might we help Mother Earth and all this other stuff. And it was kind of like saying that through different ways of people's experiences, is that we are essentially inviting in this new wave of higher being children whose main prerogative and motivation for a lot of them is to be the change that the world needs to see in healing Mother Earth. So you will notice kids being more self-aware of recycling, of what they eat, of not eating animals, more children wanting to be vegetarian. And so that is something that I guess of the new wave coming in, because and we have some of that already, but it's not enough to collectively make the drastic changes that this world needs, and we need to
right.
make it soon.
But I think that also comes from the parents too, because like you mentioned, and like you always say that all thoughts are energy.
Mhm,
So it started with something. I mean, even to produce a kid, it came from a thought somewhere.
mhm.
So I think that these, I guess, enlightened children, I mean, I would call them enlightened children, because
Yeah.
when you're a child, you're so innocent and you don't know what you're
You
doing.
haven't been tainted yet until you've been
Right,
tainted. And
exactly. No,
same thing.
not tainted.
Yeah, and then you think about yourself as a kid too. You weren't tainted until you were tainted. And
Right,
so that's why we essentially end up doing all the shadow work now, is because of all the crap that we started with, say starting with parents and then peers and schooling and society and religion, and then realizing that some of those things aren't serving us, or some of us may never come to that conclusion. But it's like but then you're having this new wave of more highly evolved intuitive children. But I feel like because we are kind of stepping up consciously even in our generations, it'll allow us to be better parents, because we are, for some of us, and hopefully many of us actually, are making that self-improvement and self-healing in order so we can potentially be the better parents that can see the child's gifts and not steer them so far away from their voice, like perhaps maybe we experience in some ways.
I totally agree with you. Um, so, I mean, that would definitely be up there with one of your most pleasurable experiences, but do you have any other pleasurable, like really high experiences that you've had
With
with your clients, or like just with your work, or, along your journey of, going into Reiki, and then, adding biofeedback, and, kind of where do you see yourself going with all of this? So you're definitely not finished, because I feel like that's where this whole, you're kind of the student too. It's,
Mhm.
it's making you a better healer too.
Yeah. So
So, Where are you going with this?
So I guess there was multiple questions within that. So let me see if I
Yeah.
can navigate it all. Um, so there's been, I mean, as you can imagine, I've had so many rewarding experiences, especially with the shamanic healing, more so than the Reiki, um, because the Reiki I feel like is more temporary in its healing, but the shamanic it really gets in there, gets down and dirty. Um, but obviously the 10-year-old, I mean, he was just awesome. I mean, you got to watch his video. It was incredible. Another one of my clients, he was one of my earlier clients who was seeing me for once a month over the past year and has still continued to see me. His name's Carl, and he originally saw me. He came in for cancer, and I guess um, I guess part of his, I don't know if I should share his story, but that might be personal. But as far as that transition, and besides the lifestyle choices he's made, he's now, his cancer is undetectable. And yeah, so he finds that to be largely due to the healing services with me as well. But of course, keep in mind, physical plays a part in it too. So he did do lifestyle changes that help support that healing to make that possible. And there's one other, I guess, experience that really stood out to me, and it wasn't the one that did a video, um, but many of her family members did do videos. And this family, they all came to see me because they all experienced a lot of loss and death within their family that they all coped and experienced very differently. And so this particular lady obviously got to then hear her experiences from her other loved ones of how they connected to the deceased loved ones. And when she came in, she was very hard of hearing. She had hearing aids. And so, of course, when we started, I was trying to lead her in, but then she was like, wait, I didn't hear what you're saying. I didn't hear what you're saying. And so it was just like, oh no, she's going to be so attached to trying to hear what I'm saying that she's not going to be able to relax. She's going to have resistance. So I said, let's just skip the guided part. I'm just going to do the energy healing. And so you could tell she was very disappointed and like let down because she was scared she wasn't going to get the same experience her family did in connecting with the loved ones. And so anyways, after about 15-20 minutes of just doing the healing, I was able to tell she was past that point. She had dipped. And so that's when I started talking to her and guiding her continuously, and she was responsive to everything I was saying, and that taught me that you are not limited by your physical body when you're in the state of consciousness and soul. So even though her physical body is limited by hearing, her soul heard everything, and it was funny because she
Awesome.
burst out into tears. She was crying really loudly, and I guess maybe in that aspect, perhaps, she was deaf to her own, how loud she was. But I mean, even my neighbors, the business next door to me, I remember overhearing them the one day talking about, and then this one day there was this old lady and she was just screaming, like bawling really loud. I guess she was doing some kind of healing next door or whatever. And so that was probably one of my rewarding experiences because that also taught me that that people aren't necessarily limited by their physical conditions. And so that gave me the ability to explore other clients that perhaps had some limitations that perhaps maybe before I wouldn't have thought was possible for them to experience what they needed. And so that kind of challenged that and allowed me to see what else was possible. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just seeing what's possible still. And I'm up for trying anything, and I tell people I can't promise you anything or guarantee you anything, but I'll promise I'll go after it, you know?
Right. Have you ever thought about doing any traveling work, like going to people that can't make it into your space, or is it something about your space that really like energetically really helps?
Well, I feel like the energy has definitely been built up in my space, as you've seen with the spirit orb footage.
Right.
Um, and I feel like it's easier, obviously, if they can come to me. I've made a few exceptions, not that I offer it, just because that's going to become too taxing on me if it was if I was too available to travel to people's houses and locations. But there has been a few occasions that I've made a couple of exceptions in going to there. But as far as, you asked about goals. Um, so it was interesting, and it wasn't something that I guess I was going after, but apparently I meant to be teaching what it is I am doing. And I remember the first seed got planted by one of my clients, because she asked me like, "Dude, are you planning on teaching this? I wanna take your course if you are." And I was just like, "Oh, I never even thought about it." I was like, I guess I'm still figuring out what's going on. But then I did a channeling with one of my spirit animal guides, and the message came through is that I will be teaching this healing technique um, to people probably starting in the beginning, or not necessarily the beginning, but starting next year. They basically said that I'm in the evolution stages and it's not ready to be taught because I'm still finding out what's possible. And I was like, yeah, well, that makes sense, because I was like, I don't even know how I'd be teaching it, because I was just like, I'm still trying to figure out what it is I am doing and how I'm doing it. And I'm still obviously seeing what else is possible. So, but it's kind of cool to see that there's kind of, I guess, a game plan that is beyond, I guess, my personal goals, if that makes sense. It's kind of like
Right.
I'm like being guided into it. And I guess I got confirmed by a psychic lady that said the same thing, and she was very impressed. And I've had some other crazy experiences too. Um,
All that make you feel like you're on the right path, kind
or
of.
that is
You're feeling like your purpose.
or that's just kind of reinforcing certain directions that I guess are outside of my conscious creations.
Okay.
Because I like to manifest, I like to create. There's part of that control in that, so I'm like, oh, I want this, I'm going to go after this because this is what I think I want right now. So this is one of those things that I guess I wasn't necessarily putting out there, but is kind of being drawn or drawing me to it, um, even though it's not ready, or I'm not ready for it quite yet. So it kind of gives me like, oh, this is gonna be ahead of me. So I guess it potentially would be one of my goals. And my goal would be, hopefully I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it.
Right?
That's the part I'm like, well, hopefully you're gonna show me how to do this, because I've not had to teach it before. So
Well, they say when you teach somebody something, that's when you really know it the most, or you're really learning the most about it.
yeah,
Well, I don't
we'll
know, but
see.
if you
We'll
ever do
see.
do a class, I will take it.
Yeah, it's like we'll see
I
how
would
it goes.
love to do that. So also in your session though, you used like some meditation bowls,
Oh,
right?
singing bowls. So I
Singing
do,
bowls.
yeah. So I create a sensory experience. So there's the guided meditation that accesses your subconscious, and then there's the energy healing, which helps raise your vibration. But then I add in other modalities that helps create the sensory experience. So there's the sound healing. So I use tuning forks. I use sorry, let me turn my phone down. I use tuning forks and then singing bowls for the sound, but then I also use vibratory therapy um, through tuning forks as well, that kind of puts the right vibrations into the appropriate areas. So essentially tuning you. I also do crystal therapy through the charged crystals, essential oils, and then the spectrochrome therapy, which is basically color light therapy, because color has energy as well. And so color even has the abilities to heal. So I kind of create this this sensory experience with all that I do, and it just makes it, I feel, comprehensive, I guess.
I mean, it really, really helps because for somebody like myself who has never done energy work before, it really helped with the guiding part and not letting the mind wander.
Hmm.
Because that's what I know, like, every time I've tried to do even yoga classes or just do meditation by myself at home or do them on my phone, they always say, now, focus on your breath, focus on your breath, focus on your breath so that your mind doesn't wander. But I can't help it.
Divine
I'm just
waters.
like that as a person, so it just goes places. But when you were actually able to touch and then put a focus on an area, or use light sensory or sound, or you even turn the fan on and heat and everything,
Hmm.
it helped with everything.
Cool. Well, and I love that kind of feedback, because it only helps improve what it is I do by hearing, like you had a suggestion with the thing under the leg, the wedge
The
thing.
bolster.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
bolster. Yeah.
the bolster, just to take a little bit of pressure off my lower back, especially with this baby in my
Yeah.
belly. But that just really, I mean, that just,
So
yeah, it
see,
was
so you
really,
having
really
that
good.
suggestion is how what helps grow my what it is I offer and what it is I do by thinking ahead because I'm like, oh, I now I had this suggestion. This is gonna make me more conscientious of it next time.
Right.
So I love that when people can give me feedback too, and that's part of why I love the testimonials because sometimes I'll get that inadvertently, and I'll be like, ooh, take note of that.
Right. I mean, that happens to me all the time. That happens to anybody, whatever they're doing, all the time.
Well, it helps
Just
grow
little,
you.
little tips and bits, that just means we care.
It helps
That's all.
you. It gives you the ability to improve. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
I'm all about improvement. So whatever I can do to improve, I'm all about it.
Well, obviously, you've definitely helped me. And the weirdest thing about it was the whole like payment thing, because I don't think that there's ever enough that you can ever like pay somebody to do this kind of stuff because it's life changing. I mean, not to put down what I do, but like a massage is like something, worth time. It's like physical labor,
Yeah.
everything. And then you come back and you get it and you keep getting sessions. But with something that addresses so many parts of your life, I don't even know where to begin with to tell you how much I am appreciative and super grateful for all of it.
Yeah. And in your gratitude, obviously, I feel like that's the bigger payment than money. I mean, yes, money obviously in the physical reality we're in is what is driving our survival, unfortunately. But I feel like my soul thrives off of that gratitude or that feedback and that like even those tears that people share with me and that level of connection. I mean, that's just where, I mean, like I told you, like this is a having my business, this is the first time I can say like, I'm not only living my path, but I love what I do and I do what I love. So therefore I never work a day in my life. And so that's why I can get away with that poor time management and spend a couple of hours talking to somebody, even though I should be better with that. But it's kind of like I love that connecting too. So sometimes I kind of let it, get the best of me, and it sometimes backfires too, because I get so caught up in the interaction part before we even start the healing that sometimes it's kind of like, oh shoot, so much time has gone by, we might have to reschedule because you have to go pick up your kids. Oops.
Right, right,
So
right.
sometimes, and I guess because I operate out of that same mindset for so long that time is irrelevant on that higher level of truth. Now, of course, we operate on the third dimensional plane. With time, it's kind of like a control construct that keeps us trapped. And so I feel like part of me is kind of like everything's in my own time, and because time is irrelevant, and so obviously operating a business, and on people's time, that I have to kind of like, oh wait, come back down to earth a little bit.
Right. And you're obviously living and breathing what you preach too, to be more present and everything when, we're
I
coming to you.
try.
Right. And we're all coming to you kind of like, in this go, go, go mode, always got to do stuff, always got to be,
Yeah.
stimulating, we're never doing enough kind of thing. And you really kind of just help us all,
Thank you.
find a
Well,
better
and
peace with everything.
well,
So, I mean,
with the whole present thing, I feel like actually that's probably one of my weaknesses, to be honest, is because I like to operate so up here and in my own little world that oftentimes I lose the present moment because of that. So that's also similarly my it's like my strength because I gain a lot from up there, but it's also my weakness because I lose that present moment because I'm always wandering. And so part of that with the mirror of my clients is reminding me, oh yeah, I need to be present too because I'm helping because this is something you want work on. I have to also be present with you.
okay. Um, is there anything else that I forgot to ask, or I mean, has this interview really changed or transformed your life or the way you think about your practice?
No, I was really, like I said, when you sent me the list of questions, I was just like, oh my gosh, so many people I think would benefit from this, especially because, like I told you, I had quite a few people reaching out to me for their paper. So I don't know, maybe you guys are all on the similar course. I don't know. But I do feel like it's, again, those questions help me think of things in that self-awareness and be like, because now I have to answer them. So it makes me think about things that perhaps I wasn't necessarily asking myself before in that way. Um, like the philosophy questions, I was like, oh yeah, what is my philosophy? I'm like, have I really put thought into that? I guess I don't have it on my website. I was like, maybe I need to like put some thought into that and construct that so I am in touch with whatever that philosophy is. Uh,
Yes and no. I feel like you're just flowing.
yeah, so yeah, I'm not like one of those people that has everything I guess so concrete and constructed, and I guess maybe
Well,
my philosophy is just the way I live, but at the same time, I guess I haven't really defined it, I guess, yet. So that
well,
was
I
kind of cool.
I don't think most people have really defined anything to like a perfect T. So I mean, I feel more comfortable now, even more comfortable now knowing you and knowing what you know about me, knowing
Yeah,
that we're all not perfect. So that's cool.
we're not perfect, even me. So
Well, that's
that's part of
I
that
think
letting go of that control is to accept, you
right.
can't be perfect, but you can always become closer and closer to the best version of you, and that's always my goal for self. And if I can play a part in other people's becoming their role, or play a part in their journey of becoming closer and closer to their best version of their self, then I'm ultimately rewarded, and yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did the interview too, though. I mean, post it or